This is the CHRILLCAST. I'm Chris.
I'm pissed if this is true.
This is Trouble Tuesday. And the headline I have here for the write-up in the outline that you guys never get to see says, Don Matrix strikes again with
Don't speak
always
his name.
online DRM. It rhymes. It's like a Dr. Seuss thing. All right, so here we go. The
Xbox players still have nightmares with this guy.
The Xbox Series X requires an online connection for many of its single-player games to check in and validate they are legitimate. Did you know that, Will?
Is this real?
Yes, it is. I will tell you the rest of it. Ready? This affects a large portion of smart delivery library of games from the Xbox One, but also affects backwards compatibility games from the original Xbox, Xbox 360, and even Xbox One games.
Man. I mean, I guess it doesn't affect me because I always have my freaking Xbox connected to my internet, but that sucks.
So here's the next part here. So it is important to note that an Xbox developer has stated this is a one-time check, not an always-on check, to make sure that all compatibility files are downloaded to the Xbox Series X so that there are no issues playing the game on next-gen hardware. Now, this is not an official statement. This is from an Xbox developer. Based upon this information, the online connection is required once during initial install and set up with backwards compatible and smart delivery games.
Yeah, so I can understand needing to do that because I guess how do you verify which copy of the game you're downloading? And yeah, I can see. And the thing is, even the backwards compatible games, like we've talked about this in previous episodes, how you're not playing it off the disc. It's actually an emulation. And I'm saying you're not playing it off the disc.
Yeah,
so
I'm agreeing with you. I'm sorry. I was just backing up your point.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like you're disagreeing with me, Chris.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. As always.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess it makes sense that you'd have to do that one-time check because I mean, even the backwards compatible games are not the same anymore because it goes up to like 120 frames per second on some of those old games, and yeah, so it makes sense the one-time check. Hopefully, it's not checking constantly because that just seems dirty, and also flashbacks to Xbox One.
So that's the whole point of this like flashy title of the video is like get people to click on it so we can explain away what's going on here. Xbox Series X does not have always online DR. I mean, it probably does have some with some games, but not with every game. This is like probably an isolated thing. What we have is a check for compatibility, and actually some games made for the Xbox Series X which do not require files downloaded from the internet to play do not require any check at all. So like what's a good, like if there was a remaster collection on the Xbox Series X that launched that was already complete, no downloads required, Game of the Year edition, you would not need to do this check at all.
That's cool.
To play
back in the day where you could just put a disc in and play. That was great.
Right. So this actually affected Mass Effect Legendary Edition, Legendary Edition, where the Xbox One version required you to download the second disc instead of allowing you to use the second disc to install. So the way around that was to unplug your Wi-Fi and turn it off, and then you could put the second disc in and play the Mass Effect Legendary Edition without the update. So there was a way around it, but the Xbox One, if you're connected to the internet, would not allow you to download the second disc from the disc, which was kind of a really weird situation because with my PS4, it did let me download both discs. I didn't have to download from the internet the second half of Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which I found really strange, but that is an Xbox thing. Like Xbox does rely heavily on the downloads for compatibility's sake, for metadata, for all kinds of various checks that they do to make sure the game's compatible with the system. And I think a lot of that has to do with their backwards compatibility program, which is better than the PlayStation's in regards to compatibility, but it's also worse than the PlayStation's in regards to implementation. Because on the PlayStation 5, you put in a PS4 disc, it runs. No checks, nothing. Just put the disc in, it runs. Xbox Series X, put in the Xbox One. Hold on, we're getting this ready.
Yeah, but at least you don't have to worry about which you can always just buy one game, whereas like the PlayStation, there's multiple versions of the same game.
In some cases, yes. Not in all cases.
Shut up, Chris. Xbox is better. Move on.
I'm not a big supporter of Sony right now either with the CMOS battery issue. But it does turn out that Xbox has some similar issues. And actually, it goes back to the original Xbox, which I learned recently has a clock capacitor that will eventually erode and explode all over the motherboard of an original Xbox. And that will render it unusable So if you happen to have an OG Xbox that doesn't have this modification to remove the clock capacitor, I suggest you go look into it, Will, before you end up destroying your original Xbox.
That would be very sad.
And then I will say this, the initial check from the Xbox Series X for compatibility settings makes sense. I mean, it really does. Like when you think about it, the Xbox Series X is almost a brick if you don't have internet anyways. I mean, why would you not have Game Pass? You pretty much need the internet for Game Pass.
Yep.
So in a way, the always on online DRM is Game Pass, but you're volunteering for it. It's not like you're enrolled in it automatically, but since Game Pass is such a good deal, that is connected to digital rights management because you're connected to the Xbox service, which hosts Game Pass, which is where you get it.
Yep.
So in that case, yes, you are. So, but it is not the same as the always online DRM as promoted by Don Matrick in the Xbox One reveal. So headline,
if you don't have internet,
misleading to get to this point that Don Matrick was wrong and always online DRM is still not a thing.
Good. Now,
Xbox did not explain this very well, especially since I had to go and search for an Xbox developer that said, "Oh, it's no." So, what do you think the Xbox should or could do to be more transparent about this issue?
I don't know about how, other than just explaining it and like when they hear it controversially, making it clear, it's like, no, that's not what you think it is. But it's just like the Xbox Live thing where they're going to increase the price and then they're like, oh, never mind. And they decreased it. And then they made like free games free to play without Xbox Live. They should figure out a situation like this where it's like, this sounds bad. I'll give you something for free to forget about it.
Yeah. So this is what they're talking about. This screen comes up when you plug in an old game or a new game even. It says this game isn't ready yet. Go online to finish installing it. So if you don't have internet and you put in an original Xbox, an Xbox 360, or an Xbox One game that's not already built into the Xbox Series X's metadata and all that, this is the screen you'll get. It'll say connect to the internet one time, get this stuff all set up. Because Xbox One games work with a very small, like, couple megabyte file to set it up to work with the Xbox Series X. And that's just for optimization to make it work right on the Xbox Series X. So that makes sense. Yep. It's a one-time check, and this message would really concern me if I put an Xbox One game into an Xbox Series X and it said, hey, please go online to finish installing. And it's like, what? So that's it. That's what it is. It's just the one-time check, download the compatibility files, or in the case of an Xbox 360 or an original Xbox game, download the full game because you realize you're not actually, as Will said.
Hey, you know what? Microsoft is such a nice company. They would never try to screw us over, Chris. What are you talking about?
Okay, Phil Spencer. All right. No, Don Matrick.
Exactly.
Don Matrick from the grave. No, he's not dead.
Don't dare speak bad about Phil.
Yeah, we learn what happens. Phil strikes back. I'll tell you all about that later.
With the lasers. Okay.
Got the Xbox on his.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
And we will see you
next CHRILLCAST. Bye, guys.
Without DRM.